Guys, this is Harcraft and welcome back to another Zelda Breath of the Wild theory. Before we start, of course, this is the 100 subscriber special, so thank you so much for 100 subscribers. We're now sitting on, I believe, 107, so that's good. A little bit late, but oh well. So today I am going to try and guess the whole story of Breath of the Wild. I thought this might as well be a really big theory, so we're going to split this up into separate parts of what we already know for definite, what we can guess at, like what we kind of know, and then finally what we don't know, and that's just me thinking of stuff that could happen. So without further ado, I guess we should get right into it. Okay, so to start off, we know of three kind of time periods. Like the first one is really long ago, second one is 100 years ago, and the third one is of course the present time in Breath of the Wild. So this all comes from the translation of the tapestry in the Master Edition in America and Japan, not in Europe, which is a shame. But Zeltic, the YouTuber, did translate this, and here is the translation. Hylian's past stories of a destined time long past where multiple races lived and worked together in harmony. The Sheikah tribe's blue aura breathed through the land, and its mutual prosperity continued until a cataclysmic disaster struck. The hero and the princess attempted to seal the terror, which became known as the Calamity Ganon. Divine beasts awoke from four directions and deployed a mechanical army which made the king and his people fearful. They fractured Ganon's power and sealed him, but the Sheikah were banished from the land ever since. So this basically tells us what happens long ago, which is the first time period, which I mentioned, which is of course everyone lived in peace and prosperity, and they were ruled by the royal family of Hyrule. This is of course before the Calamity Ganon disaster struck, I guess you could say. So there's this one place out, this one time period gone. So then we're moving on to 100 years ago, and what we do know is that Link and Zelda both try to stop the Calamity Ganon when it rises and attacks the kingdom, and they kind of have to ask the Sheikah for help after they fail trying to defeat it. So they deploy the big major divine beasts from the four corners, which I talked about in my last theory last week. So if you haven't seen that, go check it out because it was cool. Which of course is what we see on the tapestry, and yeah, that's what we can get from that. So that's all we really know from the 100 years ago from that passage. We don't really get much more from the gameplay we've seen either, but we do get quite a bit of the present time, of course, which is the third time period I specified. So first of all, we know Link wakes up in a shrine after 100 years, meets an old man who tells him about Calamity Ganon. He hears a voice from the castle, which is presumably Zelda's. We don't know yet, but I mean, it's probably Zelda's, a young woman's voice. And then we know that he goes to shrines and activates all the Sheikah towers and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much all we know, like for certain, about the game. So let's move on to what we kind of know, but might not be true. Okay, so now the stuff that we don't really know about, but we kind of do. So we don't know much about what happened long ago. We don't know what Zelda game precedes this, and what happened in the aftermath of that game, because we don't know it. But we can take a lot more from 100 years ago. So we of course already know that Calamity Ganon came and was sealed, but Link and Zelda, for them to try and seal the Calamity Ganon, must have been able to see it from afar. So whether that is you know, in its energy kind of form that we see in Breath of the Wild, or a different form, maybe Pig Ganon or Human Ganon, we don't know, but we know they must fail in defeating it the first time through. So they then asked the Sheikah to help them, who obviously put out the divine beasts along with the commanders, but unfortunately they are then corrupted by Calamity Ganon, which, you know, that's a real shame. But the king, which we hear at the end of the latest trailer, tells someone who's presumably Link to look after their daughter, which is Zelda.
You must save her, my daughter.
So they obviously are trying to escape, after the king has told them that. Now this part is coming all from the latest trailer and the clips we got during that, and one clip that we got during the first trailer. Well, not the first one, but the one we got at E3 last year. So we know Link and Zelda are trying to escape, but they are of course being chased by Guardians, or we can presume that, considering the Guardians in this scene are running away from Hyrule Castle. They may be chasing Link and Zelda by Calamity Ganon's instructions. So we see some scenes here, Zelda crying, which could come before the Guardians catch up to them. And then they're running, and Link looks behind, which is presumably when Zelda slips out of his grasp and falls. So then we know 4 Guardians catch up to both of them. We see their ruins on the ground in this scene. Obviously Link defeats 3 of them, but 1 is left, which injures Link to the point where he's on his knees. And Zelda tries to protect Link with what we can presume is the power of the goddess Hylia. We don't know that, but we see her outstretched going no with light, which is really interesting. But Link falls or dies or gets really badly wounded during this fight, and he's then put into the Shrine of Resurrection along with the Sheikah Slate, so he can wake up once he's healed. We also know, this was on the box art for the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in Japan, that Zelda takes the Master Sword back to the Deku Tree to put sword in there ready for Link. It's obviously destroyed and rusted. And we obviously know the Sheikah, Seal Calamity Ganon in the castle, which is a divine place, so it holds it in. We see that in multiple instances. As soon as you step out, you can see that it's in Hyrule Field. And then we also know that the Sheikah are banished by the king, and they await the hero's return underground in the shrines. And the Guardians are just left to roam the land under Calamity Ganon's control. The Divine Beasts are corrupted. One stalks Death Mountain, one's in the sky over the mountains, and we know of the camel in the desert. And that's all we can pretty much get from 100 years ago. Now what we can get from the present time in Breath of the Wild, presumably, is that Link has to go around and go to shrines and collect spirit orbs. Might do anything, but they might get hearts, and you might get 10, and you might get another heart. But there's over 120, so that is definitely a possibility. And then you have to go around and activate all the Sheikah Towers. He goes to meet the Deku Tree, where he gets the Damaged Master Sword and learns more about the past. And then he could go and befriend some people. There might be the Sages, possibly, or some other people. We've seen the Zoras, the Rito, and the Gorons. And then Peace is going to return to Hyrule. So now we get onto the exciting stuff. And before we start that, spoilers. There may be spoilers and maybe not. We of course don't know anything really about the story apart from the backstory. And we don't know what's happening during the game really, because the game obviously isn't out for another 5 weeks yesterday. So yeah, that's all still up in the air. So this all now is pure speculation and theory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm not saying that this will happen, but if you don't want the chance of being spoiled, then click away from the video now. Thanks for watching up to now. So if we're going back to 100 years ago, we can guess that the people of Hyrule, after being forced out of Castletown, go around and make these secret villages in places, and some are left to roam, trying to defeat monsters, maybe Guardians, in order to try and get back to where they belong, which of course is Hyrule Castletown. And yeah, we can also presume or theorize that the Sheikah Slate that Link gets is in fact Zelda's. She's seen carrying it a couple of times in the latest 2 trailers. So Zelda might leave her Sheikah Slate in the Shrine of Resurrection to, you know, just guide Link when he wakes back up, or when he is resurrected from death. He might die in the fights with the Guardians that we see, and that's all I think we can pretty much get from 100 years ago. And now finally we are getting into the meat of everything, which is of course the present time, which is where a lot is happening. This is where Link journeys round and has to find stuff in order to get back his memories. We know there are 18 memories. We've seen the memory screen. There are 18 memories that Link has to find or remember. And there's quite a few different theories going around of how he gets them. One theory is that it might be the Spirit Orbs, which I mentioned before. I think they're going to be hearts, but they could be a way of getting the memory back. But another equally viable and probably the most likely theory is that you're going to have to use the flowers that we've seen everywhere. It's in the logo, it's on the Master Sword of Resurrection statue you get in the special edition in Europe and the Master Editions in Japan and America. It's even on the memory screen itself. So we can presume that they might be a key to unlocking Link's memories of 100 years ago. Which of course is everything that I just mentioned in the past few 100 years ago sections. So we don't know how they're going to be implemented, how you're going to be remembering those memories. It could be with some kind of cooking in a special recipe of some sort, and then maybe some food, so you go to a certain place, you eat this food, and then you may remember something. Or you might have to pray to the Goddess Hylia statues that we've seen around. And people have been saying that there's about 18 and 19, which perfectly correlates to the amount we see. And a couple of them we've seen one in a town, we've seen one in the ruins in the Game Awards gameplay section, and one in the Temple of Time ruins in the Great Plateau. So they all seem pretty important places. Maybe not the town, but that might not be a Goddess Hylia statue. If you look at the image, it certainly looks like one, but it might not actually be one. So you could go to them, offer a flower up, and then you'll remember something. That is definitely possible. So you can then theorize about the new sages, which I did mention briefly before. We've seen the Zora, of course, as well as Gorons and the bird people, maybe Rito, we don't know. But the sages might return, the 6 sages, or the elemental sages from Ocarina of Time, and A Link to the Past. I think there were 6 in there, right? Zelda's the 7th. So yeah, that could happen. You might have to go and see all the sages who help you get your memories back or something, or help you take down the Guardians. Can also theorize that you're going to have to put the Master Sword back to its original state. We don't know how that's going to happen. It could be with the new sages, or after you potentially defeat or revert the Divine Beast back to the Sheikah Slide, so they're back with blue energy instead of the evil red energy. So that'll be interesting to see how that kind of thing plays out. But then we can also presume that Zelda is going to have to escape from the castle if she is being held there with the help of Link. So she might have to get out by herself, or Link might have to go in and get her out so she can help with maybe restoring the Master Sword. But then, of course, to the finale of the game, which is maybe like the biggest spoilers yet, I don't know, so why should you? They might both go and attack Hyrule Castle together, They both face Calamity Ganon. Zelda might obviously bring back her light arrows to help, or something along those lines. They defeat Calamity Ganon, which, I mean, you know, that kind of has to happen at the end of the game. You defeat the big threat. And then another thing that might happen is that they might end the cycle of rebirth of Ganondorf and Ganon, which is, you know, maybe that's what happened in the Wind Waker. Of course, he was sealed at the bottom of the ocean. This might finally end that cycle. The thingy, I forgot what, the curse. That's it. That's the word. The curse that he set in Skyward Sword. And then, of course, peace returns back to Hyrule. Everything's fine. And yeah, we'll just about wrap up this monster Breath of the Wild theory. There's been a lot on my channel so far, so I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, do leave a like and a comment on your thoughts on what the story may be in Breath of the Wild. This, of course, is just my thoughts, opinion, and speculation. But yeah, if you have enjoyed, do subscribe as well. I'm going to be doing 2 Breath of the Wild theories a week now, up until the release, which is in just under 5 weeks, which is amazing to say. After waiting for so long, it's almost finally here. Well, I'll be doing some gameplay on it. I'm hoping my capture card will work with the Switch. It should. So that's all good. But yeah, otherwise that's a bit for me, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.